Welcome to WagerTalk TV. This is Bet On It. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek, the man of many nicknames, VR Ace. Welcome to the show. This is my favorite week in the NFL because every single person thinks they've got it figured out. The Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. The Patriots are not good. The Texans might be good. Did the Browns just suck because the Chiefs decided to show up in the second half? We're all going to talk about all of these games today. I'm excited. We're going to get right into it, gentlemen. Thursday night, the New York Giants, 3.5-point underdogs at the Washington football team. Now, this total is extremely low. It opened 43. We saw some 41s. Now we're at 40.5 here almost across the board at the WagerTalk odds screen. If you haven't looked at the WagerTalk odds screen, wagertalk.com/odds. It is the best free odds service that you can get, just a slight delay. So you're not paying that expensive premium for the other guys. Marco, I'm going to let you go first. Talk to me about Thursday night football.
Yeah, Thursday night football, Kelly. And boy, I'm probably going to get grief again because I'm going to be talking to Washington Redskins. You know, and that's fine, as BR always says. Tell me who you like before the game, not after the game, all right? If you disagree with the Washington play, let me know now, not after the fact. But this is injured player theory, Kelly. We know Fitzpatrick went down in the first quarter, and we don't know if that was a plus or a minus as far as value goes. There's a lot of people that think that Heineke is as good as Fitzpatrick and is going to be a good fit. I'll say this much, just the fact that he's going to get all the reps this week in practice is going to have him better prepared. And the best unit on the field is going to be the Washington defense. And you look at the Giants offense and Daniel Jones last week, they did nothing against Denver. And I'm not going to try to compare Denver and Washington because I do think Denver's a more complete team, especially with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. But I think Washington gets the job done here at home. And for those that are not familiar with the injured player theory, we've talked about that numerous times on the show. Real short, what it is I like to take a team, the first game that a star player is out, because you generally get an adjustment in the line, an over adjustment, and the players for that team all kind of rally. And you've heard the phrase, give 110%. Well, they feel that they do need to do that to compensate for the loss. And mentally, sometimes your opponent has a little bit of a mental letdown thinking, oh, we just caught a break. Their star players out. And the injured player theory does work in that first game. I'll take the Redskins. I'll lay the points on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's the only way I can really look here as well, Marco. I was not impressed with the Giants. I mean, as a Broncos fan growing up, I didn't touch that game, but I thought, man, the Giants at 2.5 might be worth a look in a teaser. Luckily, that game moved to 3 so that I did not have to touch that one. It was ugly. The Broncos looked good. The Giants, too many turnovers. Daniel Jones not looking very good. VR, your thoughts on what Marco had to say about the Washington football team? I'm hoping he's right because I have that Washington football team over season wins as well as to win the NFC East.
Everything Marco said is spot on. I agree with absolutely everything he said. And I'll tell you, power rating wise, I have Washington on a neutral, almost 2.5 points better than the New York Giants. Now, that was before the quarterback situation, and that's where I'm having difficulty quantifying the drop-off. Is there? How much is it? Is there even a drop-off? I'm having a little trouble there. I haven't bet it. I haven't bet the side, haven't bet the total, but I do agree with everything Marco said. And if the game was tonight and I had to bet the side, I would bet Washington or leave it alone. Number one, the injured player theory, and even the X's and O's. Defensively, they just have such a huge advantage. And I'm not an X's and O's guy, but it's just so apparent. You're talking about arguably the worst offensive line in the NFL going against a top 5 front 7 of Washington, at least power rated wise. That's what I look at. And the defense, knowing now they have to step up for the offense, they're going to get their A game. But that's why also I think now the market overreacted a total a little bit, and it's dropped a little bit too much. Again, if you bet before and got the best of it, you got a good ticket in your pocket. Kick your feet up, enjoy the game. You may cash a ticket. But now I think that value's lost. And if anything, if the line keeps dropping, I'm going to look to go over. And again, defense scores points, turnovers, short fields. We see that all the time. So for me, I lean over. I lean Washington. Neither are a bet so far. I may end up passing on that game. Again, I got to find value. I don't make sense out of every game. I just bet games that make sense.
All right, VR, I'm going to stick with you. Kansas City at Baltimore. Now, this one was 2.5 prior to the Monday night game being played. When it reopened, it opened -3.5. We're starting to see fours now start to pop up. Total 55.5. I have the Baltimore Ravens circled here. You had mentioned that you liked the Baltimore Ravens the other night if the money line made enough sense. Did you end up getting involved on the Ravens, and what were your takeaways from Monday night?
I did. I had Baltimore. And I even had the under. I had a little first half action as well, but I lost. Definitely, I lost money on Monday night. And I didn't watch, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even watch the game. I didn't watch any Sunday games either. I just didn't have time. Like, I didn't. So I didn't go through the roller coaster that most did. I know that. But I saw Marco text the group text, so I saw we were up at halftime. But I swear to God, I didn't know till the next morning on my daughter. I didn't know till the next morning whether I won or lost that bet. I went to bed not knowing. I wake up, I look at the box score, I look at the scores, and I take it from there. I don't have a bet on this game. Here's my power rating. I make these teams pretty much dead even. 1A, 1B with Tampa right there. Those three teams I have within a half point of each other. So now Kansas City going into Baltimore as a favorite of above a touchdown. I got to look to the Baltimore side based on my power ratings. But I already confirmed with you that one of the groups I work with bet me Kansas City -2.5. Now, were they trying to get out ahead of that 3, expecting the line to move that way? More wise guys' power ratings reflected that there was value on Kansas City side. That's what scares me. I've done this long enough to know how few people on the planet actually are walking around with positive lifetime earnings. So when any of those people place a bet, I pay attention. And I know with certainty they bet Kansas City at -2.5. So I'm not confident taking Baltimore plus the points, even though I think it looks like there's line value there. So if I have to give a play on the show, again, not to take more time, I think the under. And you're going to be forced to hold your breath simply because you're looking at two high-profile offenses, especially in the case of Kansas City, who's not going to take their foot off the gas. And you know what they're going to do. But the line's climbing. You're up at that 55 range. And again, we know scoring's being up. But once you get up 55, 57, the scoring isn't up that high. You're going to get a lot of overs in those 40, mid 40, high 40 ranges. But again, you're talking 50s. You'll get some unders there. I lean under, haven't bet the game. Sharp money's on Kansas City -2. That much I do know.
Okay, VR, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said because this was a question that was on Twitter this morning. And I think this is a great learning spot. Now, we've talked about buying points before, but there's a lot of new viewers to our show. I mentioned Kansas City's headed to 4, at least in one book in Las Vegas. And I think that that's where the other books are going to be. So if right now your book is holding at 3.5, should you buy it to 3? Yes or no, and why?
Now, see, I love these this is what matters more than any picks. And this is what we don't do a good job of in the sports betting market. In the financial market, they do. Like if you want to trade options, you're going to have to let them know your P&L, that you've done it, that you know what you're doing, because they know on the other side of your option trade is going to be a shark. And 99% of 99.9% of the time, those new option investors are going to get eaten alive. Those sharks on the other side of that trade are going to destroy you. So they protect you, just like with accredited investment nonsense like that. We don't have that in the sports betting market. And we need more PSAs like this. Let me make it simple. For casual bettors, don't ever buy points. Just make it that simple. You're not nuanced enough to understand when you should buy points. So don't ever do it. Just make that your rule. Don't buy points. If you're afraid it can't cover 3.5, but your team can cover 3, then you shouldn't be betting it. Just make that your new rule. Again, you want to get the best of the three long term. You'll be plus, positive ROI doing that. But make it your rule. Now, personally, here's what I do, Kel. I know we have data, Ralph sent over data of how many times games land on three since 2020. I have another guy that sent me since 2015 with the change of the 2-point conversion, how many landed on three when the line was 2.5, 3, or 3.5, how many times favorites win by three, all that stuff. That's all great. That's all data. Bottom line is I live in the real world. And in the real world, the only time I think for casual bettors, they should never buy points. But on three is number one, if you look at the betting lines and you see you're getting it discounted, meaning a shop like Penny is charging extra vig. So you buying that half a point gets you a better number. I know it's hard for you to grasp. I'm not for you to grasp it. For me to articulate it is where the problem comes in. I could make it as simple as saying if you're paying more than 10 cents, don't ever do it. But that's not true because the math actually shows that on three, you could lay up to 20 cents, up to 17 cents in some spots, 22 cents in other spots. So again, whether it's plus EV up to a certain spot, there's arguments amongst quants back and forth, and it depends how big of the sample size, with the 2-point conversion, without the 2-point conversion. So again, I don't want to go on a rant. Let me keep it simple. Do not buy points. If you miss the number, that's it. You wait for your next best bet. There's always going to be another bet to make, another plus EV situation. If minus 110 at 3.5, you don't think Team A could cover it, but at 3 they would, that don't make sense. The only reason you should be buying it is because it increases your chances of winning based on games landing on 3 and this and that. And again, I don't want to make it harder than it needs to be for you. So my advice is just don't buy. And most books out there, especially the ones 98% of casual bettors are betting into, they're charging you too much for it anyway. Unless you're getting minus 105 lines and they're charging you 10, 15 cents to buy on and off 3, you shouldn't be doing it. Or unless you're getting minus 110 lines and you're able to spend up to 10, 15 cents. If you're spending more than 20, that's why I'm saying, let's not make it harder than it needs to be, Kelly. Don't buy points. The books you're betting into are not going to give it to you at a discount. They're going to make you pay more than you should for that, like they do with the teasers, as I explained in that video. So just don't do it. Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that, VR. You taught me that a long time ago, and it's something that I think every sports bettor needs to learn. And once you learn that you can't make money, for the most part, as a recreational, buying off of certain key numbers, just don't do it. You're too late to the party. Marco, do you think we're too late to the party here on the Kansas City Chiefs? You were at the game on Monday night. What did you think of the Ravens? Or maybe what did you think of the Raiders? Maybe they're a little bit better than we thought. Maybe the Ravens aren't as good as we thought. Or was it just kind of a crazy game and we should throw out that one game sample size?
Well, it was a crazy game, Kelly. And I'm going to give everybody a life nugget. VR drops all kinds of nuggets on you. Here's a life nugget. And he was talking about he didn't watch the game on Monday night. He went to bed, got up in the morning, looked at the box score and did the stats and got everything he needed out of it. Now, what I'm going to give you the life nugget is I watch these games. Look at the head of hair that VR has and look at the head of hair I have. Okay? You decide what's it worth. Okay? All right. So now let's go to this game. I'm looking at this one, and you know what? If you had Baltimore last week or you had the under, I'm saying a prayer for you, okay? Because that was the unluckiest loss that you could have. That game was a stone cold under the entire game until, you had the crazy stuff that happened at the end of regulation and get it into overtime and for it to go over the total. I'm going to come back to the well again, and I'm going to go under, and I'm going to go under in the first half. And you know what, Kelly, this year in the NFL, that's a perfect example. We've seen the scoring, and, VR's talked about it. The offenses are there. When I play unders in the NFL this year, just like I've done in baseball, I'm going to utilize first half wagers, and I'm going to use first half wagers for the unders because the game can change the complexion on one play. It could be a stone cold under the whole way. And then all of a sudden, somebody gets a fluky touchdown and it becomes a 2-score game. Well, the other team whose game plan might have been to try to run the football more in that game now suddenly has to abandon it, and they're throwing the football all over the place. And now you got a stone cold under turn into an over. But in the first half, you're getting pure. And as long as the game doesn't get out of the gates as a track meet, you're much better live, in my opinion, with an under in the first half. And that's where I'm going to go here. If Baltimore can win this game, they cannot win it with Lamar Jackson in a shootout. Plain and simple. He's not going to compete with Mahomes if they're going toe-to-toe throwing the football down the field. If he's running the football and they're going play action, off the read option and everything, they can stay in this game and that chews clock. I'm going to go with the under in the first half and hope that they control the game that way and get us to halftime under 27.5 points. And then anything can happen after that. The home dog is tempting, but the things that concern me is Baltimore made way too many mistakes against a suspect Raider defense last week. And that's my concern on taking Baltimore straight in this game. So I'm on the under first half.
I like it, Marco. I like the Ravens, but I'm going to sit tight. Maybe I can get a 4.5 here. We're going to find out. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, it is time for everyone's favorite teaser segment.
This Saturday, Marco's releasing his 5% college game of the month as he goes for 7 in a row with his top-rated plays after winning his 5% NFL opening week upset shocker outright on Arizona +3. This capped off a 5-0 Sunday for Marco, and since the end of July, he has gone 59-31 for 65% winners for a profit of $6,964. You can get this big 5% play by itself for $35, or get a 7 all-day access package and get every play Marco releases in all sports, which normally sells for $119, for just $77 when you use coupon code Marco77 when checking out on a 7-day all-access.
Welcome back to Bet On It. This is an interesting teaser week, guys. I'm going to get to Marco here first, but the only team I see that you can tease would be the Cincinnati Bengals. Outside of that, not a lot. Marco, would you like to go into really quickly what we recommend here on Bet On It as far as teasers go?
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. The goal with doing a teaser is you want to get your team through all of the key numbers, whether you're teasing a dog up or teasing a favorite down. And the key numbers that we're talking about are 3, 4, 6, and 7. That's where using a 6-point teaser gives you plus EV if you're going through the correct numbers. And if the total is low, those points become even more valuable because the fewer number of points expected in a game means the more points you're adding on to a team increases your chances of winning that wager. Perfect example is the Cincinnati Bengals this week. You've got a team that the line had opened 3 on this game, but some money has come in on Cincinnati. So you're seeing them sitting at 2 and 2.5, plus 2 or 2.5. Well, by using the 6-point teaser, we're taking them through all the numbers I just said. You're going through the field goal, going through 4, you're going through 6, the touchdown, and the 7, the extra point. And look at the total. It's 45. It's one of the lowest totals on the board. And in today's NFL, that's a low total. So now teasing it up through those numbers make them more valuable. So that's a no-brainer, automatic. One side of your teaser is Cincinnati. Now you look at the rest of the board, you don't find a lot of those situations because there's a lot of numbers sitting at 3. People will tell you you don't tease a number at 3 because you're not getting all of the numbers. You already have one of the key numbers, which is the 3. So laying that extra juice, you're not getting your full value. But where I'm going to go for my second half is one that's not traditional, but this is the eye test for me. Denver is -6 on the road. I am going to go ahead and use my 6-point teaser to have them just win the game. And I'm the first to preach all the time. Never judge a team by one game. You don't want to overreact. And Jacksonville looked horrible last week, losing to Houston. This team's got a lot of problems. They've got a dynamic rookie quarterback that's going to take time to gel in the NFL. The problem is there's just not a lot of talent on this Jacksonville team. I really like this Denver team this year. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I've been a fan of his entire career. I thought he got raw deal, not getting a better chance to prove himself in Carolina. I think they made a mistake, but he is going to give Denver a competitive team. And we already know the Denver defense is good. And that defense only gets better when they have an offense that can stay on the field like they can with Teddy Bridgewater. I don't see Jacksonville winning this game. If Jacksonville beats me, so be it. But if I can get Denver at a pick 'em, that's where I got to go here. And that's what I'm doing with my teaser this week.
All right, VR. I know you also have a little PSA here in regards to teasers. Did you end up playing a teaser for this week, even though there aren't any traditional ones?
Now, last week I ended up putting in a teaser. We ended up cashing it. This week I do not have a teaser. There will not be a teaser released to subscribers unless some of these lines do some dramatic movement, because it is a waste of money. You're better off straight betting them at -110. I'm telling you that now. The only tease possible is Cincinnati, like they touched on, both Marco and Kelly. That's why I love them so much. Marco, who brings proprietary stuff, his situational awareness is something other handicappers don't look at his way, which is why I love it. And Kelly has a passion for it, unlike most, and surrounds herself by so many sharp bettors. You have no idea the amount of sharp bettors she surrounds herself and absorbs it all. Took one time for her to realize stuff. I love it. And because Cincinnati is the only Wong teaser. Otherwise, you're not getting any advantage. So you got to use Denver, because now not even New England is at 6. There's 5.5. So you even get worse by doing New England. It's Denver, and that's even not great. And here's my conspiracy theory on why this is by design and it's not by accident, because we're in week 2. And do you know that the mean absolute error, meaning we know the closing line is the most accurate reflection of true win probability we have, because all the information's factored in. We know who's injured, we know whether it's going to rain, and we have billion years of data of seeing final scores, that the closing line is the closest to the actual final scores. And whose closing line is it? It's Pinnacle, okay? How far apart is Pinnacle's closing line than the average NFL game over totality of a season? Let's go back almost a decade. 10.24. I won't put anyone on the hot seat and ask. 10.24. So over 10 points, they're off. And that's still the most accurate we have. And they're still 10 points off the mean. Their mean absolute error is over 10 points. In week number 2, though, that drops down to 9.6. So almost a half point, more than a half point less. They're more accurate. Again, the more accurate they are, the more the teaser works. The less accurate they are, the worse the teaser is. So when Vegas numbers are accurate, the teasers will kill them. They'll crush them. They don't want games landing close to the number, because all the sides of the teasers cash. They want that mean absolute error being double digits. That's why 6-point teasers are meaningless. That's why even 10-point teasers, get it? 10.24. You don't have that extra 2.4 on that 10-point teaser. And if you do, they just jack the juice up a little bit. Now, you could say it's just randomness one week over the other. A half point here or there doesn't really matter over a big sample size. Maybe a conspiracy theorist, call me what you will. But it's just coincidental that this particular week that the mean absolute error is almost a whole point off of what it usually is, that you can't find a more than one team to tease. Odds makers are pretty good at what they do, man. That's all I'm saying, especially in the NFL.
I'm with VR. I don't think I'm going to be on a teaser this week. I do like the Bengals in a teaser, but not sure I'm going to be able to find another leg. We'll keep an eye out on the line moves for this week. Kind of like Marco's and the Broncos just have to win, but I've got to show some discipline, because that is all I do is preach discipline every single week on Twitter. Cannot be a hypocrite here. When we return, Steam game of the week is up. Is the deli back open? Maybe Marco has a trap game for us in week 2 of the NFL. And then, of course, some TNA with Ralph Michaels.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
I think I just heard the doorbell. I'm not sure what that was, but it's got to be. Is the deli back open, Marco?
Yeah, what that DoorDash or Uber Eats? So they ring in at your doorbell, pick up that sandwich. Let's keep it rolling. We've got a sandwich game this week. Last week in the NFL, we went trap, but I found a sandwich for us. And we're going to take a look at the LA Rams at Indianapolis. And here is the sandwich. The sandwich obviously is the Rams because Indianapolis didn't look too good last week. But the Rams certainly did. Everybody saw them on Sunday Night Football, dismantle the Bears, and, of course, all of the hype leading up to the Rams and their shiny new quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who got to escape the Detroit Lions. Yeah, they look good, and everybody is buying into them, and they're going to want them this week against Indianapolis, because why not? Indianapolis, Carson Wentz, they laid a colossal egg against Seattle last week. So everybody's going to say, hey, it's the same old Wentz. This team's in trouble. No, let's give him a little bit of time. Remember, he didn't play in the preseason. Give him another game, get there. But what I'm looking at with the Rams is off of that big home opener on Sunday Night Football, all the hype coming into the season. Now you go and play Indianapolis that didn't look good, non-division game. I got to point this out. The least important game of your schedule are the games on the road against non-conference teams. When you get to the end of the season and tiebreakers come into play, that is the least valuable. Who do they have on deck? A very big game. It's a conference game. It's against Tampa Bay, the defending Super Bowl champs, a game that possibly could determine home field advantage in the NFC. So, yeah, this is a sandwich spot to go against the Rams. We've got a live home dog. I don't know. Is Kelly going to join me with that live home dog? I'm taking the sandwich, taking Indianapolis, and we're going to call for them to pull the upset. 27-24, take the Colts.
I was hoping it was going to be one of your guys' barking dogs. I'm happy to hear it's also a sandwich spot. Good looking out there. Marco, VR gave us eight games during the college football team selection part of the show. Yeah, I love it. I bet it all during the commercial break. VR, what do you have for us in week 2 of the NFL?
I'm going to go with a total. And to me, this one just looks obvious. And that's New Orleans, Carolina under. And because it did get steamed, but there's still 45s, a lot of 45s out there. And group I bet it with, we got in 46. And I even released at 45. I think we're still good. Again, I'm always trying to get the best of the number. Number one, you look at this series, it's been an over series. So you're going in, you expect it to be shaded towards that bias. 4 of the last 5 in this series have gone over. 7 of the last 10 have gone over. But look at the first week. That's what we have to go on. And as good as these Saints offense looked, that game will be the outlier. Rest assured. When we are halfway through the season at least, remember I said that. This game will be the outlier. And remember what I said during the NFL preview. In MMA, in team sports, you throw the outliers away. It's hard to repeat those. And what I mean is New Orleans did everything right against Green Bay. They were 4 for 4 red zone efficiency, 3 for 3 in goal to goal. They had no turnovers. They didn't get sacked. They did everything right. It's so hard to repeat that and be perfect like that. But I like what I saw out of that defense. It's going to help my under. And then Carolina. You saw against the Jets, man, and that was Darnold with revenge. It's going to take a while to get this offense going. All you got to do is zone in on McCaffrey. You can't have him be the leading rusher, leading receiver, and think you're going to just be able to put up points easily against these NFL defenses. And I just don't think Darnold's ready to be able to do anything more than dish it off to McCaffrey when he's in trouble. Too easy to predict. Give me the under 45 there.
Now that you have the sandwich and the steam game of the week, it is time for some TNA with Ralph Michaels. Ralph, what trends and angles do you have us for NFL Week 2?
Cal, everyone's excited about week 1 of the NFL season. Owners, players, fans. So what happens if you were a week 1 home favorite and you lose? What do you expect week 2? Well, the expectations were on you. You disappointed. Do you bounce back? Well, yes, you do bounce back. If you lose as a home favorite in week number 1, those teams have cashed 58% of the time. Very few teams are home week 1 and home week 2. So those teams that lost as a home favorite week 1 and now go on the road since 2013 have covered 59% of the time. Imagine that easy. Play a team that loses as a home favorite week 1, you cash almost 60% of the time week 2. Those teams that lost as a home favorite and now are on the road, Atlanta at Tampa, Buffalo at Miami, New England at the New York Jets, the New York Giants at Washington, and Tennessee at Seattle. When we talk about road teams week 2, Cal, we talked about this last week, and it was absolutely amazing record. Teams that start off in the NFL week number 1 on the road and week number 2 on the road were 2-17 against the spread for 6 years. Last year, we talked about it on TNA, and we said this year might be different. There were no preseason games, and there were no fans in the stands. So we don't know how much a home field edge there was. Well, guess what? Teams last year that played on the road week 1 and week 2 went a perfect 4-0. But this is exactly what you have to do when you break down angles. Are those angles still relevant? Well, despite going 4-0, I think this 2-17 angle, which is now really 6-17, is completely relevant because we have preseason games again. Teams traveled on week 1 and had to play those tough crowds. Teams coming back on a short week having to travel again week 2. So take note. Teams playing their first 2 games on the road this year. Dallas, I give Dallas an asterisk because they played Thursday, so they have extra rest. But Denver, Minnesota, and San Francisco all play back-to-back road games the first 2 weeks of the NFL season.
Those are a few that definitely concern me. I don't know if I have the guts to play against some of those bad teams like the Jaguars, but the Broncos are sure getting a lot of love as 6-point road favorites for week 2.
They sure are. Couple over-under trends I want to mention here. Well, your home week 1 and your home week 2. Does that mean anything? Well, the ATS record is just about 50%. It's actually 50-48. So a notch or two games over 500. But this jumped out to me. If you're playing in the NFL home on week 1 and home on week 2, you have gone under the total 57% of the time. Now, that's not a wow record. That's not going to take you off a bet. But if you're looking at a team that's been home week 1 and been home week 2, and you like the under in the game, it does make it a bit stronger. That's how I would use this angle. Those teams that are home the first 2 weeks of the year, Carolina, Indy, Tampa Bay, and Washington. And one more angle that I want to talk about before we get to Survivor pick. NFL game number 2 teams where both teams lost game number 1. So you have some urgency. An 0-1 team facing an 0-1 team. There have been over 230 games since 2012 where 0-1 teams face each other. They have gone under the total 58.6% of the time. So blindly playing 0-1 against 0-1, you have cashed 59% of the time if you play the under. And all 3 0-1 teams this week, all 3 games are division games, which I like the under even more. The Giants face Washington, New England against the New York Jets, and Detroit against Green Bay are your 3 games with 0-1 teams facing each other. Clearly, they lean to the under.
All right, Ralph, give me your survivor pick for NFL week number 2. Last week, you had the Niners, and boy, did it look good. I was at that game, and then they gave you a little bit of a scare there at the end, unless, of course, you were a Lions fan and you knew that there was no chance they were going to score there with a minute and a half left. Who is your pick for week number 2?
Well, week 2, you can call me the chalk eater. I'm going with the Browns, a team off a loss against a team off a win. Again, I don't like picking the biggest spread on the board, but in a survivor contest, you try to match up teams that you like certain weeks and you look at the future. One note I will bring, Kel, if people are going to the site to download the logs and they look at the NFL guide, I do have the early look ahead lines for every game this season for every teams. So if you have not planned out your complete survivor picks yet, download that guide and you can look what teams will be what size favorite each week of the season.
I, too, will be on the Browns with you, Ralph. Look, I thought I was going to make a case for the Packers, and I wanted to save the Browns for versus the Lions, but I think I'm going to be using them this week as well. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, we're going to find out the guys' survivor picks. We know that those dogs are barking, and, of course, some best bets.
Football is back, and Gianni the Greek is looking to repeat his legendary football season from last year, where he finished number 1 in the NFL, picking up 197% in profit, and number 2 in college football, increasing his client bankrolls by 56%. Even more impressive, Ace finished 2020 the number 1 overall profit title at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, where he not only took the crown, but he has never had a losing calendar year at WagerTalk. Right now, you can take $500 off his 1-year all access, locking up all of Gianni's plays for the next 12 months using coupon code ACE500. This coupon code expires Sunday at midnight, so act fast before the $500 discount disappears.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
Welcome back from commercial. I'm Kelly Stewart. Marco D'Angelo. We already mentioned Ralph's on the Browns. I'm with Ralph on the Browns. Marco, can we make it 3-0 for the Browns survivor pick for week number 2?
Is there enough in that bandwagon for me to jump on too? Because that's where I'm going. Yeah, you got to go Cleveland. This is the gimme of the week. And surprising here that the contest in Vegas, the big survivor contest, week 1, they lost like over 600 people. That absolutely surprised me, even though we didn't have any major upset. If you remember last year, there was a major upset in week 1. It took out a whole bunch of people out of Survivor. But this week, Cleveland is the automatic play. Go ahead and take that and advance on to next week.
VR, now I know you've said before that you don't really do a lot with survivors. Your survivor pick did lose last week, but we would still love to hear some of your input. Some of the wise guys that I've talked to said you don't want to pick the biggest spread on the board. Well, I picked the biggest spread on the board this week. I think the only other spot to take the Browns in would be against the Lions. I think the Browns coming off that short loss to Kansas City where they kind of blew it in the second half, or you could say Kansas City finally showed up in the second half, however you want to look at it. Your thoughts for week 2 survivor?
Yeah, again, I'm out of it, so not the guy you want to follow. To me, it would look obvious that Green Bay, you don't want to start off 0-2, especially having lost to the Saints. You don't want to have that next loss be in your division against Detroit. That's a game you have to win. Covering's a different story, but that's a game you have to win. And I don't think Green Bay is going to be all that much bigger of a favorite this season. Not like you're going to get it at a better spot than this, having come off a loss, needing a game on Monday Night Football at home. I think it's a great spot for Survivor. What's a better one for him? But rather, real quickly, want to shout out to a couple people like Jason G, Jay Ward, U571, Rob Curry, everyone, Mo Bird, Billy Harrison. Thank you. We love you more than you know and appreciate your comments. We go through them. We really do. I wish I had time to reply to everyone in the DMs. It's just not possible to do that. And real quick, got to say shout out to Chris at WagerTalk, who actually does take the time, and he even sends them to me on Slack. Like says, here's all the stuff that was directed towards you. the good and the bad, so I could read it because it does matter to me, dude. It really does. I don't brush it off. I appreciate it and I read it. So please, comments, let us know how you feel. Give us your picks before the game. And of course, smash that like button and we'll keep throwing gold.
Absolutely. So, all right, we got some dogs for you guys. The barking dog segment is up next. Marco, your thoughts on week 2?
Yeah, Kelly. Now, this barking dog could have been the barking dog. It could have been if I would have went with a trap game, because to me, it fits the same thing. Now, I know our man, Mr. Stat Daddy, gave you some interesting stats about teams going in second week, if they lost as a favorite and so forth. But I'm going to talk to you and say, how many times this week are you going to be in a sports book walking around and you're going to hear somebody say, well, there's no way they can go 0-2. They're not starting the season 0-2. And you know what? Every single season, there's somebody that is a surprise 0-2, and there's always somebody that is a surprise 2-0. And I've got a game that would be the surprise on both ends. And who would that be? Well, coming into the season, we all know the AFC, it's Kansas City's to lose. But after that, who were the darling childs? Cleveland and Buffalo. Okay, Cleveland's not losing this week to Houston, all right? Buffalo's going to Miami. That's a division game. And if Miami wins, they would be your surprise 2-0 team. Yeah, I'm going with that barking dog. I'm going with Miami. And I'll tell you what, that loss last week by Buffalo might have a little carryover effect, a hangover effect, because I don't think the Buffalo Bills lost that game. Their head coach lost that game when he decided, with the lead in the third quarter, late third quarter, totally dominating the Steelers. Steelers offense did absolutely nothing in that game. And he was around the 42, 43-yard line of the Steelers. It was 4th and 2. Decided to go for it instead of punting. I would have punted and pinned them deep because the Steelers weren't moving the football. But okay, you want to be aggressive? I'll go with that. But the play he called, Kelly, is they threw the pass backwards. They threw the ball backwards. You got to go forward in that position. Not only did they not make the first down, the Steelers blew up the play and got the ball at midfield. And that turned the game around. Steelers scored. Next possession, they had a short drive, punted, and had the punt blocked, and game over. I think they come out with all the pressure in the world on them not to start 0-2. I'm taking Miami, and I'm calling them outright. Sprinkle Miami plus the 3.5 to win this one.
Don't forget how hot as hell it's going to be in Miami. I know. I've already looked at the forecast because I'm going to be there. I'm going to melt. Once again, why I keep going to these hot destinations in Florida is beyond me. VR, I know that you saw some sharp money coming on that Miami team. They moved from 3.5 to 3. We spoke about them on Monday. But who do you have for a barking dog for this week?
And yeah, let me share some of that steam with you guys and some of that information. I'll give the barking dog because I always say when I get conflicting information later, I had bet Miami and a group I respect came in on Miami. So I was glad we got the 3.5. And then 2 days later, Buffalo, when they were 3 at -3, 1, 2, 3, 4 different groups came in and took Buffalo -3. So I can share with you, there is sharp money against us on that Miami side. I haven't bought off of it. You can ask me towards the end of the week if I get enough conflicting info. I don't just do it if they buy back. I have to find out reasoning, and I'm willing to buy back a game if I see the conflicting information warrants it. I'd rather have my guys be mad at me, my subscribers, that they have to buy back and pay big, than just roll the dice and have them gamble. Listen, it's easier for me to just let it ride and not tell you about it. But I don't sleep comfortable at night, and I got to look at myself in the mirror. So I got to tell you how it is. And like I said, 4 groups did come in on the Buffalo side. The dog I like, it's Indianapolis, and that's an obvious one. I think most short bettors are going to take the Colts, and it's one of those, the market overreacts after one final. The Rams looked as good as you can look on a primetime Sunday night. This is level 1 handicap, and I'm not trying to make it look like I'm getting deep here. They beat a weak Chicago team at home. I like more what I saw out of the Indy side. And here's what I mean. The problem they had last year, the Achilles heel, was the last few seasons actually record they are there, where they had leads going in at a half and couldn't close out games. Like every other team is able, if you have a lead, you're going to win in the NFL. Even I think up to a 3-point lead, you win 62, 63% of the time. You just have a 3-point lead going into the half. Well, Indianapolis just wasn't able to do that. But what did I see last week? The opposite. The game got out ahead of them where they fell behind. And what did they do? They came back and held a good Seattle team to almost nothing. That cost me the over, in fact, that they held Seattle, I think, to 7.6 or 7 points. I had the over. But that impressed me so much that I realized this Indy team with Wentz and Wright together, this offense could put up some numbers. And if the defense shows up, they're capable. And I thought we'd get some value coming off that loss. And that's exactly what happened here with this point spread. It's way too high. These two are, I don't think the Rams should be more than a 1 point. I don't even know on a neutral field. I don't have them that much greater than Indianapolis. I'll tell you now. Yeah, I have them like 2 points better. And Indy at home, this line's way too high. So everything supports it. My power ratings, the level A handicap, everything. Give me Indy.
All right, that's a great segue into our best bet segments. And per usual, I'm going to go first. But Marco and VR already did the hard work for me. This is really nice that we're all three on the same page here because everyone is looking at this matchup and they cannot wait to lay 4 points with the Rams. Even better, the books are giving you a gift and moving it to 3.5. I get it. Who wants to back Carson Wentz? I really don't. But I do think they have the better coach here in Frank Wright. Not to mention, as VR was just speaking about, the Colts should have been 1.5 point favorites. That was the look ahead line on this number. But the Rams look super dominant on Sunday night. The Colts didn't look as great at home to the Seattle Seahawks. But hey, even when Andrew Luck was the quarterback for the Colts, they still lost home openers. They've actually lost 5 straight home openers. So that was something we should have been paying a little bit more attention to last week. Matthew Stafford, 10-15-1 against the spread as a road favorite from our good friend Mark Lawrence. And another good friend of mine, Marco, totally missed this one. Guess what he said? The Bucks are on deck for the Rams. I think the Rams are just going to roll right into Indianapolis. They can get a 3-point win for all I care. I will win by the point, or hopefully everybody else can win by the hook, and we will take it. Marco, who is your best bet for this week?
Well, Kelly, I'm going to live and die with the saying of people walking in around the books this week and saying, all right, this team can't possibly go 0-2. And man, did they look good in losing last week. Was there a team that lost last week that looked better than the Dallas Cowboys? They went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady. It took Tom Brady a miracle to go down and get them in position for the game-winning field goal. Hogwash. You know what? Dallas defense still sucks. Tampa Bay went up and down the field, and if it wouldn't have been for four, count them, 4 Tampa Bay turnovers, that game would have been an absolute blowout. Instead, we look at it with rose-colored eyes and say, hey, Dak's back. Look at the numbers he put up. Yeah, he did put up some nice numbers, and he's going to have to do that all season long. I don't see the Chargers turning the football over this week the way Tampa Bay did. I see a more balanced attack from the Chargers. And what's that going to do? Well, it's going to keep that Dallas offense off the field because the defense can't get off the field. I'm going with the Chargers here. And you know what? This line was sitting at 3. We saw it start to go to 2.5 and then came back to 3. Sharp money still there with the Chargers. I know that the public, if this got to 2.5, Kelly, the books wouldn't be able to print enough teaser tickets because everybody would tease Dallas up to 8.5. No way that offense is getting blown out by more than 8.5 points. Well, go ahead. This is the second week in a row on the road for Dallas, coming off that big game. And me personally, one of my angles I always tell you, I like to take big favorites that had a scare and won by just a few points because you know they're going to be focused the next week. I also like to take go against a big dog that just missed, because you know what? I don't want to use the phrase, but did they blow their, last week in that game against Tampa? We'll find out. I'm going ahead and taking the Chargers. They bit me last week going against them. Hopefully they don't bite me this week going with them.
Hilarious. We're the most PC show in America. You love to see it. Good stuff from Marco VR. Who is your best bet for NFL Week 2?
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a couple more little bonus gold nuggets too. So remind me, I'm actually sending out a play as the show's going on, NFL play. So you get that. It's a 3% only, but I'll give it out. And because my synopsis is going to be quick, because it's the Chargers, and we don't let each other know what we're taking pretty much before the show. I gave out the Chargers a 4% play, talked about them, I think, earlier in the week. And it makes perfect sense. Number one, again, level A handicapping. Dallas looked great against Tampa Bay. I get it on Thursday night. And more importantly, the Chargers looked as if they struggled against the team with a quarterback that they were able to knock out the starter in the first quarter. So shouldn't they have went on and crushed Washington? Absolutely not. What did we talk about when we said Redskins? They have one of the best defenses in all of football. That's not going to be the case this Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. Chargers are going to have an easy time on the offensive side of the football. I like the Chargers here a lot. I really
VR,
do.
Before you get into your other gold, can I ask you a quick question? Sorry, I was just looking at the WagerTalk odds screen. I want to clarify this. I know we spoke about this a minute ago in regards to 3.5. Right now, the Chargers are 3 minus 120 at several books and 3.5 at some others. It makes more sense to get the 3 minus 120. And can you explain why?
Yeah, for me, the thing is, Kel, right now, because there's even I'm seeing even 3.5. It depends if you're getting even money or if you're getting 3.5 minus 110s. That's the difference. What kind of book are you working with? Right, I laid the 3. I got 3 even money early in the week. I gave it out to my subscribers. But right now, I would take the 3 at minus 120 than laying the 3.5. Just because, again, if it was at that 3.5 at minus 110, I'd have to be paid 15, 20 cents at most spots for that half point. So now I'm getting it at a huge discount. That's what I always say. Look at those sharp books. And if they're adding extra big on a flat number, like if they're at 3 minus 114, everyone's at minus 110, and then that way it's worth buying the half point to 2.5, because the sharpest book on the planet is charging 4 more cents at 3. So if I'll spend a little extra to get that half a point, if the total's lower, it confirms it even more, but it's more nuanced. But in that spot, you take the 3 minus 120 now instead of 3.5 minus 110 later. Absolutely.
That's just all I wanted to clarify, because I had a feeling that by the time this hits our YouTube channel, we may see a ton of 3s. I actually just saw 3.5 plus 105 even. There's lots of shopping opportunities out there. So make sure you guys go do that. VR, really quick, give some gold before we take our last commercial break.
3% play. Under 48, Vegas, Pittsburgh, bet down all the way down to as low as 47 was the last number we betted at. Also, this is what I gave out during the show. Minnesota at plus 3.5. It's one, again, 3 is such a key number. I think it's higher likelihood it goes to 3 than the 4, so I bet it now. Minnesota plus 3.5, 3% play.
All right, great stuff. There is the leprechaun. Whoever made that on Twitter, we should probably give some sort of royalties to, because it is absolutely hilarious. We're going to take our last commercial break, and when we return, we're going to give the recap to all of you jackasses that didn't watch the show and scrolled all the way to the end.
Teddy Covers is red hot, cashing 67% of his plays since the beginning of August. Get 3 days of Teddy Covers selections for only $29, discounted from $69 using coupon code TEDDY3 when checking out. That's less than $10 per day and includes any 5% big ticket releases, normally priced at $35 just by themselves. As an added bonus, anyone who purchases before Friday at midnight will get $10 in wager bucks, good toward a future Teddy Covers purchase credited to your account.
It's time for the socialism part of Bet On It. That's right. For all of you that were too lazy to watch the show, we're going to still be nice and give you all of our plays. Let's bring up the recap graphic so we can go through it all. Look, Thursday Night Football, VR says he likes the under 40.5. Marco said, lay it if you play it with the Washington football team. Sunday night, under 55.5 for VR. Marco agrees with that under, but he's taking it in the first half, under 27.5. VR didn't have a teaser for this week, but he said, depending on New England, if they were at 6, it could be a fit. Cincinnati plus 8.5 for both those guys. Marco says Denver pick 'em as well. The same game of the week. That's right. It's scary. New Orleans, Carolina under. I already feel disgusting betting it. It makes me so apprehensive. And the sandwich game, the deli's back open. Marco has one that no one's going to want to stomach, but that's okay because it's also my best bet. The Colts +4, which is also VR's barking dog. We have a team ticket in the Colts +4. VR said he wasn't playing Survivor because he got knocked out last week, but we are all playing the Cleveland Browns, and VR said if he's picking, he's got to take the Green Bay Packers. Best bet for Marco is I'm sorry, I forgot Marco's barking dog. Hello, Miami +3.5. Everybody likes the Chargers for their best bet. And as I mentioned, I am also on those Colts. Again, guys, like VR likes to say, smash that like button. Jump in the comments. Tell us your favorite bets. Tell us we suck. Tell us you love us. We don't care. Just comment. I'm going to get Gianni Detroit to give me some wager bucks for this week. Best comments, get wager bucks. That is free money you can spend over at WagerTalk.com. Yeah, why not? Marco loves wager bucks ever since that one time everybody used them as Kentucky Derby. So I love to give those out for free from myself, Marco, and VR. Good luck this week, and we'll see you next Monday for the next episode of Bet On It.
Buy Bitcoin. Don't forget.